Can you explain intentional misconduct?
Yeah, intentional would be like a battery, assault, false imprisonment. And where you get into that kind of situation would be somebody actually hits you or punches you at the gym, but not part of sparring. I'll give you an example. It's more comical than anything, but there was a time I was, purple belt at the time. I was rolling with another purple belt. We went inverted, and I got an arm bar on him, and he couldn't tap quite fast enough. And it was very unintentional that I overextended it, but he was very upset. He stood up and he pushed me. Well, even though we were literally just grappling and in a combat type of scenario, after the round is over, standing up and pushing someone, even though that's technically less violent, that's outside the scope of what we agreed to do as training partners. So pushing or shoving someone would be technically the intentional tort of battery and or assault. Now, we wasn't an employee, he was just another student, but the analysis would go, okay, if I signed a waiver, that waiver, I could not waive liability for intentional misconduct, like someone pushing or shoving you. Contrast that with negligence. Negligence is, I absolutely did not mean for this outcome to happen, but through my oversight, through my inadvertence that I should have been able to mitigate, I did cause harm to somebody.
So another scenario would be something like he doesn't tap or is unable to tap, and then he's thinking to himself or potentially tell someone else, hey, I'm going to do this back to him. I'm going to overextend his arm.
And that's a really interesting question is, if we're rolling and he intentionally cranks the arm past the point where I tap, then yes, because up until when I tap, so you and I are rolling, we have consent. We have provided implied and express consent to do grappling with each other, to try to apply chokes, to try to apply joint locks, unless and until one person either verbally or physically taps. At that point in time, the consent for the continued aggression is revoked. That's the way it would look in the eyes of the law, is once I tap or once you tap, I no longer have your consent to continue to crank the armbar, to continue to crank the Americana. And if you tap and then I continue to crank and I hurt you, the question then becomes, was it intentional or unintentional? If it was intentional, it's a battery. If it was unintentional, we then move into the realm of negligence. And then if whether it's negligence or not depends on, was it one of those, and we've all been there, it got tight super fast. Like Americanas are known for that, right? Americanas get tight really, really fast. That guy goes to crank it. You yell tap, but it's almost contemporaneous with the cranking to the point where there was maybe a millisecond or a half a second after he heard you that before he let go. I think you're going to have a hard time making a claim for negligence because there was just such a split second for them to react. But that's the legal analysis there, kind of toggling between an intentional act of battery and negligence.